happy Friday, and thanks for tuning in to RadioFreeRhinecliff.org and this show in particular. Correct me if I'm Norm. I'm your host, Norm, and I'm thrilled to be here tonight with Elliott Malkin. Elliott, how's it going?
It's going well.
Yeah, is
Thank
it?
you.
That's good. Thank you so much for being here. Guess what? You have the honor of being here for my first ever advertisement. Yeah, I'm starting to take ads on this thing because our ratings are kind of going through the roof. Like 1,800 downloads last month. And the producer's like, hey, we should take ads. And so we got an ad today for a taste of Rhinebeck. Do you know this thing? Have you ever done that?
I've encountered it.
Yeah, I've gone a couple of times. It's great. I love strolling around. And it's in a couple of weeks. And the Chamber of Commerce puts it on. This year, its proceeds benefit American Legion Post 429, Village Autism Committee, and the Chamber of Commerce. And it's so much fun. I don't know what it costs, but I highly recommend it. You you get tastes from all of the different restaurants in town and drink tastes as well. And if you want to buy a ticket, go to rhinebeckchamber.com. There you go, Taste of Rhinebeck. How'd that go?
Nice.
How'd the first ad go?
Remind me the date.
I don't know if they said that. If they said that in the text. Oh, here it is. Wednesday, May 6th.
Wednesday. It's on a Wednesday
May
afternoon /
6th.
evening.
Yeah, I think it starts at 5. They usually have 2 shifts because it's very popular. So you get like a 5 to 6 shift or a 6 to 7 or whatever. And then you go around. You get your card punched everywhere you go. And you vote for who you think is best. And you bump into friends.
Stuff the ballot.
You trip politicians. Like, hey, you. Stuff the ballot. Yeah. You could totally, it's the people who count the votes who really are important for this. 25 restaurants, spirit shops, specialty food retailers. There we go. That's the ad for Taste of Rhinebeck.
Nice.
How'd that go?
It went well. It went better than me pulling my car in front, parking in front.
Yeah, knocking your freaking mirror off.
I knocked my side mirror off on the way in.
I look up and you're like standing there looking around. I'm like, oh, he's just like wants to get it perfect, his car perfectly in the spot, perfectly in between the lines and stuff. But no, you were
I
doing something
backed
else.
in and my side mirror hit the parking sign and part of my side mirror popped off. And I thought it was shattered. I walked out and I was delighted that it was just a piece of plastic.
A huge piece of plastic.
It was a piece of plastic covering the side mirror and it just popped right back on like a Lego.
Yeah, are you pretty secure that it's secure there?
Yes,
Popped back on?
I feel very secure
So
in
the
that.
pop was satisfying enough to give you confidence it was
I'm
not going
very
to go anywhere.
satisfied and unconcerned.
Unconcerned.
Yeah.
That's good. Well, let's move on,
Yes.
Elliott Malkin. Where are you from?
I'm from a small suburb outside of Chicago. It actually borders Chicago right on the north called Lincolnwood, Illinois. It is probably has a stable population of around 15,000. And it's nestled between the northern edge of Chicago, Skokie, which is a much larger suburb to the north where I went to high school, and Evanston, another larger suburb where Northwestern University is to the east, right on the lake.
Skokie, made famous by the Blues Brothers movie for me. Remember that?
Yes,
Did you see that?
I don't know if Skokie was explicitly mentioned in the film. It was definitely being directly referenced.
Oh, really? Maybe I'd read the news and just connected the dots.
Or maybe you saw the B movie Skokie.
I did not see the
in the
B
1980s.
movie Skokie.
I think it's like a 1980 B movie film, which was made about the events that took place in Skokie when I was probably a baby or a toddler or a small child.
What was the offense?
The Nazi Party of Illinois decided to march down the main street of Skokie. They had, free speech. They applied for a permit, and they were able to march down the central street of the highest population density of Jews in the Midwest, at least, and possibly in the country. And
Skokie, predominantly Jewish town.
Skokie at the time was heavily Jewish. And it also, I understood it to be and was told that it had the highest concentration of Holocaust survivors in the United States.
Wow.
And so the Nazis decided to target this population.
Fucking A. This is the 70s?
Right. Yeah, it was like late 70s, I think. I mean, I think I became aware of this in the 90s, much later, as I became conscious, a conscious adolescent or high schooler, But
right. But the event must have like loomed large in local lore.
not really.
Huh.
No, I mean, it was canonized in the Blues Brothers film where they satirized and just, completely made fun of the Illinois Nazis. They ran them off a bridge.
It was great.
Oh, yeah, it was great. I mean, I think that was like...
And audiences cheered.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think that like, perhaps the catharsis of that film expelled the memory of it somehow. Because it was
Right.
not a prominent thing growing up. It was more like I sort of uncovered it myself later.
Right. Yeah, and I remember watching that film, and people cheered. When the Blues Brothers, they had an old cop car, Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi, and they stopped because this parade was like centered in the middle of the bridge, and they're like, "Fuck that!" and they gunned it, and all the Nazis were like driven off of the bridge and into the brink, and it was a great moment. And I'm wondering, as we recount this, if that would play the same way in America today.
To me,
50 years later.
The feeling is analogous to the Capitol Police staving off the mob that stormed the Capitol. That's like that kind of feeling. You're just like you're cheering on the good guys, the Capitol Police.
Yeah.
And in the same way that you were cheering on the Blues Brothers.
Right.
Who are these like kind of hapless cop types. They were driving a cop car, but they were themselves were convicts.
Right. Yeah, and you're cheering against the bad guys. And those bad guys they don't seem to be as universally hated in America these days.
Yeah. I don't know if I draw like a direct through line from the Illinois Nazi Party of the 1970s to like fascism today. There's so much intervening technology and cultural forces that there may be some like genealogical relationship between today's fascism and those early Illinois Nazis. I have no idea, but it just seems like to be a slightly different animal.
Huh. It seems to be sort of the same animal.
It's
Hatred,
just
fascism,
mediated by
Nazism.
such different technology.
Right. And what technology you're referring to?
I don't know. Today's fascism is mediated and driven by social media.
Right.
And I don't know. I'm no expert on this. I'm just,
Right.
just shooting the shit. But it maybe there's a direct relationship. I don't know. It just has evolved.
Right.
That's 40 years ago, 45 years ago.
Yeah, it's
maybe 50 at
a
this
long
point.
time
Yeah,
ago.
yeah.
And so this eventually reached your consciousness when you got older in this town, Lincolnwood, next door to Skokie. Was Lincolnwood a predominantly Jewish or
No, it was
largely
mixed,
Jewish?
and Skokie was mixed too. It was just like a higher density Jewish population than the norm.
Right. And how were you raised? Were you raised with any religion?
I was raised Reformed Jewish. I went to a Reformed Jewish synagogue. I had to go to Hebrew school on Mondays and Wednesdays after school, and to Sunday school on Sunday mornings 9 to 12.
Yes. That's a lot of religious, learning. And
It was, but it was like Judaism light.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I had to learn Hebrew, but I had no idea what it said. And
so you just learned the sounds?
yes, you learn the sounds and you learn the prayers and you learn how to read it,
Uh-huh.
but you have no idea what it means. You don't use it. It's completely out of context. And, I enjoyed decoding this language, in a way that like kids might enjoy decoding a puzzle. But it was completely decontextualized. And once I graduated from that, I never looked at it again, really.
And did you graduate with a bar mitzvah?
Yes. Although I actually got confirmed after, so I kept going. I did 2 or 3 more years where I met with a rabbi in a small group of high school kids, or like early high school kids, because it's like once you have a bar mitzvah, after that you're in 8th grade. So I think 8th grade, freshman year, and sophomore year, I continued to go on Wednesday nights. We'd have a meeting, a small like kind of symposium type thing with the rabbi, this like super progressive rabbi, and it was like 8 high school kids, and we would talk about social issues. We talked about birth control, abortion, ethics, and it didn't seem Jewish to me.
Right.
It just felt like, I was in an ethics class or something, and it was all in English. And this guy was like this chill, progressive, long-haired rabbi, and it seemed cool, and I didn't think about it much. And then I finished it. We got confirmed, and I went on.
So you had the bar mitzvah, and then later on you continued to sing, and you got confirmed. Is it usually part of the bar mitzvah, the confirmation?
No. It was like extra.
An extra thing.
And my parents probably signed me up for it.
Right.
And I just went along with it, or maybe I didn't have a choice.
And you were a good kid? Did you generally go along
I
with
was a
your folks?
very good kid, except in Hebrew school. In confirmation class, I was good. I thought that was cool. But Hebrew school, I thought was lame. And the only time I ever misbehaved was in Hebrew school. In regular public school, it was fantastic.
And why Hebrew school? Why are you misbehaving?
Because it was extra school. They made me go to extra school. I didn't see the point of it.
So you were resentful to
And the
begin with.
teachers weren't as good. They
Right.
were volunteers. They weren't professional teachers. They were just like people from the community that would like volunteer to teach you Hebrew and stuff.
Right.
And the classrooms were like not well outfitted. The walls were blank. It was sort of like a worse version of school that I had to go to extra.
Right. That sucks.
Yeah. So I would like sneak out, and I got kicked out one time. I mean, just, but I didn't do anything like massively egregious.
But
I was just a pain in the ass in a way that I wasn't in regular public school, because I liked regular public school.
kicked out by somebody's dad who was teaching
Go to
this class.
the equivalent of whatever the principal was, in Hebrew school.
Right. And where was Hebrew school? Was it
It was actually in Chicago.
But was it in a synagogue or?
It was in Rogers Park. Yeah, in synagogue.
Okay.
It was like, that part, like Lincolnwood being nestled between this neighborhood of Chicago called Rogers Park, Evanston, a suburb, Skokie, a suburb. And Rogers Park is a historically Orthodox area. And it's now, at the time, I think it was beginning to be South Asian.
Wow.
And now it's predominantly South Asian.
And you were born there?
I was born in Lincolnwood. Yeah.
Right.
And my mom still lives in the same house.
Nice.
I'm 52.
Nice. I love that. Go mom.
Yeah.
And how did your folks get to Lincolnwood? Where'd they come from?
They came from the west side of Chicago.
Okay.
There's a meta narrative here that they just participated in, right? They were like, they lived in the previous Jewish neighborhood, on the west side of the Chicago, which was like the original, like Lower East Side of Chicago. And they just like migrated up with the entire community, moved up to those suburbs,
Right.
in Rogers Park and Evanston and Skokie and such. And they all lived there for, a few decades. And they like kept moving, and they moved further north since.
And were they born there on the west side?
Yeah, they were all born in Chicago. My parents' generation were all born in Chicago, but my grandparents were all born in Eastern Europe.
Okay.
They were all immigrants, and they spoke, when I was growing up, that older generation that I was exposed to, and there were so many of them, like all these old aunts and uncles. I mean, that world does not exist anymore. It's incredible, and I miss it. Like our generation, my kids, they don't have it. They don't have older relatives around. They have like one grandmother, and I had like countless aunts and uncles that smoked and like spoke Yiddish. And they were real characters, and they'd come over to our house for like some kind of, a dinner or a holiday or something. We had this drawer in the kitchen that would get opened only when they came. And like 12 of them would walk in. My dad would open this drawer, and there'd be like 15 ashtrays. We had this one ashtray drawer, and all the ashtrays would come out, and then there'd be like smoked fish, ashtrays, and other appetizers.
Secondhand smoked fish.
Yeah. And that's what like our family gatherings were like. And then that whole generation died off. But I mean, I still remember many of them.
I wonder what killed them.
Yeah. No, some of them, I mean, like some of them smoked their whole lives, and they lived until in their 80s,
Yeah. And were you ever a smoker?
No.
Right.
No, I never smoked.
And one of the reasons I'm asking about this is because before doing what you've been doing recently, you spent a lot of time as a fairly successful artist, in my eyes, making really interesting bodies of work.
Yeah, in your eyes, I was successful.
Including this one, Lose Your Religion in 5 Easy Steps.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, that's more of like a documentary piece where I I at one point, I think this is post artist a bit. I was just like a researcher. I was like a genealogical family history researcher.
Yeah.
I was just obsessed, and I would go real deep, and I would try to discover all of the vital records and in any information or stories that I could get about all of my ancestors.
Right.
So all those like old people I'm talking about,
Right.
that made a sort of impression on me, kind of subjective impression on me. I actually, like, years after they died, I was like, I want to know about their lives.
Right.
Really know about them. Where were they born, and what did they do for a living, and where did they live? And all that stuff was in like census records, in the phone book. And then I did some oral history work. And so I built this kind of repository of information about these close ancestors of mine. And I realized there was a story there, right? That happens in 5 steps.
Right.
Which is, one, they got born in the Pale of Settlement, which is like the former Russian Empire, where Jews had to live in a certain prescribed area.
And they were citizens of that area.
Yeah, there was some form of citizen. They weren't allowed to live in certain areas. They had to live, and then the pogrom started, and they emigrated to the United States, and which was in a way a blessing, because scaring them off with the pogroms had them avoid the Holocaust, which was even worse, which came later.
Right.
But anyway, so that whole wave of immigrants came, and a lot of them settled in New York. They had settled in Chicago, Montreal, Cleveland, etc. A whole bunch of them landed in Chicago, which was this kind of exciting young city on the western frontier, and they helped. They were a part of the construction of this city on Lake Michigan, and they were all Orthodox. They were like Yiddish speakers. They were Orthodox.
Right. So now
subsequently they got assimilated.
Right. Let me just go. Lose your religion in 5 easy steps is a project you did. 1, start in the old country. 2, immigrate to America. And now 3, grow up in the city, which is where I think we are. There's 2 more steps, but you're at number 3.
City, move to the suburbs, and then what was that last one that I said?
Move to suburbs, unaffiliate.
Unaffiliate is the final step of assimilation.
Right.
So they went from like I have a great grandfather who was Hasidic. His kid was Orthodox. His kid was conservative. His kid was Reform, and I'm unaffiliated. That's the 5 easy steps. Those are the 5 steps of assimilation that I was able to trace directly through my father, my father's father, his father, and then my great-great-grandfather.
And how do your folks feel about you being unaffiliated?
My mom doesn't care. She just doesn't. She just wants me to be happy and have grandkids, and and the works. And my dad died.
Before.
I mean, I think they wanted me to be Jewish identified, as all parents, most and the majority of Jews that I knew of that generation did. It mattered to them. It mattered to them, but not in an extreme way. They're not to the extent that we're like, oh, if I dated non-Jewish girls, they wouldn't let them in the house or something.
Right.
Which I've heard of that happening.
Egads. And you ended up marrying a non-Jewish girl.
That's correct.
And
Yeah.
Did any of them or any of your relatives give you a hard time about that?
No. Not my family.
Nobody cared. And you said you feel like for your kids, I mean, they have one grandparent. They don't have this, a drawer with 20 ashtrays and right. 30 or 40 relatives and distant relatives coming in, descending upon the place. What do you think they lose by not having that?
I think it's isolating.
Right.
I think that it's not just me and my family, but I think that I had kids late. And the major downside of having kids late is that your family dies. Your extended family is dying.
Right.
They lose, their grandparents are dead before your kids are born. Some of them. I mean, my kids have one grandparent. And the extended aunts and uncles, they're old and dying. And I think that we are more isolated, as a society, and atomized. We're just spread out and separated from our communities, and our neighborhoods. I mean, when they were growing up on the West Side, their cousins lived across the street. Their cousins lived upstairs. They all were like, they moved in groups, and there was like a social assistance happening, right? They were all immigrants, and they all helped each other.
Right.
They're like, oh, I got a job at this place. Oh, I think you could work there. Oh, you're a carpenter. I can teach you carpentry. Oh, I'm going into the liquor business, and they helped each other, and they were a real community. And this wasn't just Jews. I mean, my friends were Italian. It's the same thing.
Right.
It's all the immigrant communities were super supportive to one another. And that's completely dissipated. I think you see it today with immigrants from Mexico. We have a tremendous, awesome immigrant community from Oaxaca here in this area, like Rhinebeck, Red Hook. And a lot of these families, they know each other from Oaxaca.
Yeah.
They come here, somebody's like, and
even if they don't, they know each other from being part of that, community here.
Exactly. That's first generation. And I think it was the same back then. They came from all these people that knew each other, like in Chicago, they came from the same villages.
Right.
That's why they went to Chicago. Why would they go to Chicago? Oh, on their ship manifest at Ellis Island, it says, who are you going to? You had to write somebody down. It was always somebody from their village. Oh, it was always somebody like an extended family member, like a cousin, aunt, uncle, somebody,
Amazing.
It's the same thing now.
Right.
With Oaxaca.
Yeah. You mentioned liquor business. Did you have a family member in the liquor business?
Yeah, a lot of them were in the liquor business somehow.
Because that was part of the lose your religion 5 steps was, go into the liquor business with an uncle.
Right. That's what they did. It was just like an employment pathway. Somebody had to, figured out how to open a liquor store.
Yeah.
So they figured out some kind of algorithm, right, for like opening a liquor store, and then they'd help them open a liquor store, or they'd work at their liquor store and learn the business, and then they'd open another one in the next neighborhood, that sort of thing.
Right. Huh, I love that. And what did your dad do? Was he in the liquor business at all?
My dad went to college and became a lawyer, and sort of broke the shopkeeper cycle. I mean, and that is also a generational thing. Their parents, the first generation, were shopkeepers.
Right.
And well, to be honest, the earliest generation were pushcart peddlers. And then eventually the pushcart peddlers got shops, and maybe their kids were shopkeepers. And then all of their kids, like post 1950s, then the goal was to get them into college. And so they went to college, and my dad became a lawyer, and that was like a huge accomplishment, right? They were the first, college educated people.
I love looking at that from this generational perspective.
Yeah. I mean,
like we've done all right for the family.
Yeah. And also like what I learned doing all this like genealogical research is that your story is not unique. You're just part of a generational wave. You think you have free will and you think you're doing your own thing, but in fact, you're just part of this like meta narrative. You're just a part of this wave of migration, and you're doing a lot of predictable things. Like the fact that I live in Rhinebeck is like,
go on. I'm listening.
I'm just part of a phenomenon. I'm a COVID wave. I'm a COVID refugee from the city.
Right. So you all came up here in like 2021 or whenever?
2020.
2020.
Summer of 2020.
A couple of months into the coronavirus.
Yeah.
And where did you come from?
We were living in Greenwood Heights, Brooklyn, which is like south slope in Brooklyn. And I was perfectly happy. I was living where I was living. I had a job. All of a sudden, COVID happened. And my wife had some friends in this town, Rhinebeck, and one of them was really lobbying and encouraging her to come here because this shit's going to hit the fan. And I really resisted. I came, she dragged me kicking and screaming. I didn't want to move here because I was happy.
Why
would I move here? I didn't know anything about this place.
You'd never been here before?
I had visited our close friend, and I loved visiting. It was fantastic, but I didn't have any plan to move here. It's one thing to visit somewhere. They lived out in the woods in the country, and I thought it was really peaceful and beautiful as a retreat, like to come once a year to visit our dear friends. But to live here, I don't need to live here.
Right.
I was happy. I was a city guy.
Yeah. And what were you doing at the time?
I was just living in the city, working in, a corporate job, my corporate tech job. And my kids were, one of my kids was 1 in 2020, and the other was 5, and had a really lovely kindergarten down the street. We would walk to school, and we were established and settled, and then this unpredictable thing happened, and we were very fortunate that we were able to move up here.
And what was the final convincing argument from presumably your wife to pick up roots down there and move up here?
God, I don't remember.
The thing that made you say, all right, I'll go.
I mean, the thing is that it was difficult. So I understood the rationale. Like, we were in the spring of 2020, I had a kindergartner who was bouncing off the walls, driving us crazy in, a small
because they'd stopped
Brooklyn,
going to school.
Apartment. Because he was all of a sudden homeschooling, and that was impossible.
Right.
And also he was, let's just say euphemistically, that my 5-year-old at the time was a very active child.
Why is that a euphemism?
I mean, he was extremely hyper. And we had a 1-year-old also who at the time was chill, but we still had these 2 small kids, and you're confined to a small domicile, in Brooklyn, just like everybody else with kids in Brooklyn. I was not unique. Again, I was just part of this large phenomenon. And it was very confining and maddening in a way, but I would have stuck it out. But Juliet felt strongly that we should go somewhere we can get more space for the duration of the pandemic, however long that might be. Just like a lot of people who were able to did, but a lot of people have gone back to the city, those who came up as a result of that, but we stayed. It stuck.
Yeah. And why do you think people went back, and why did you stay?
I think people went back because of work.
Yeah.
Because they couldn't keep working remotely, and they had just job opportunities and their careers to continue there, and they still had their place, that they had originally, or schools. Maybe there was a school that was better suited for their kids, or a combination of both.
And did your 5-year-old go straight into Rhinebeck schools?
Yeah. So I remember. So the thing that was incredible that my wife predicted and was part of the calculation was that the school was open in the fall of 2020 and the spring of 2021. The Rhinebeck schools were open for half days in the elementary school. The New York City schools were completely shut down, and we were able to come up here in a school district where the schools were at least providing half days in person. And then they had like supplemental time over video in the afternoon, or maybe it was the morning. I can't remember, but part of the day was online, and then part of the day was in person in masks, which was incredible. It was a great privilege that we were able to do that. New York City was shut down for another year.
So you got out when the getting was good.
Yes.
And did you ever fantasize about going back?
Yes. In fact, we were torn and kind of split because we kept our other place for a year. For a while we had these 2 places, and then the second year we were we were torn, and we rented out our place in the city, and then we sold it after at the beginning of year 3 we made the decision that we weren't going back.
You said the kids are.
The kids were adjusted and happy up here, and that was, for me, that was the primary driver of it. But also, like, I enjoyed, it's cheaper to live up here than the city, so that I liked. And also, I was able to keep working remotely. And I just kept going with that.
And you were doing some sort of corporate stuff, you said?
I was doing corporate software design.
Okay.
For big tech, and I was able to milk that for many years and just work remotely out of my house. Eventually, I got an office in town because I needed to get out of the house.
In the village here?
Yeah, I did. I found out like a desk rental.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So you say big tech. Was it Google?
Yes. I just left Google in the fall of 2025 after 9 years.
Oh, recently?
Yeah.
Wow. And what were you doing at Google?
I was doing basically what they call UX design or interaction design for productivity software, which is called Google Workspace, which includes like Docs, Sheets, Slides, Gmail, Meet, Chat, all the stuff that people like use for work or for emailing each other, scheduling meetings, getting stuff done. That's called Workspace. It's productivity software.
Yeah.
So I was working on that stuff.
So software development, you're making, so somebody's like, oh, it'd be great if we could just cut and paste this from there and this auto-populated. And they're like, hey, Elliott, can you do that?
Yeah,
you did
it's like feature development. It's like, oh, I use this software. The software, when you get a piece of software and it says, oh, you're working with version 3.2. And then you see it starts downloading and it's like, oh, version 3.3 is coming out, and then it lists all these enhancements. So I'd be working on those like incremental enhancements to the software that would get like propagated into people's computers.
Did you enjoy that work?
I really love, and I still love, the design and like problem solving aspect of software design. I still do it like almost like recreationally, even that after I've left. I enjoy that. I'm not well suited to corporate corporate life.
Why is that?
God, I mean, this is a big subject.
No, there's 3 hours left in this interview, so go
I'm
ahead.
happy to keep going for as long as you want, but I worked in a corporate context for the past 18 years, and it served me well. I'm like very appreciative for it, but in many ways, I'm not well suited to it because decisions are made collectively in a hierarchical way, where there's like these layers of approval and layers of committee, and you're having to constantly package up and sell your ideas. It's not like you can just have an idea and execute it. You have to like have an idea, articulate the idea in usually a deck, and then you have to then like socialize the idea, sell it, take it on the road, go to tons of meetings and talk about your idea, make sure you got everybody's input and feedback, and there's a million stakeholders. And after discussing it and, integrating everyone's feedback for 6 months, then maybe it gets built. And I'm not well suited to that.
And so part of your job was coming up with these ideas, these incremental improvements.
Part of my job was coming up with the ideas. Part of my job was just executing the obvious things that needed to happen, which weren't my ideas.
And what were some of the coolest things either you developed or implement or figured out?
I mean, at the very end, I was working with AI. At the end of in all of 2024 and 25. I mean, I was working with AI for many years, but like at the very end, you were able to, like, as part of our job, we were able to harness AI and have it like turbocharge our own work. And that was extremely cool. Like, I was working with this AI to prototype my ideas in a very fast way at the end, which was super exciting. It's like I all of a sudden had a team of engineers to build my ideas overnight, in a way that I never had and that everyone has now.
Yeah.
It was very cool.
So instead of just like going in with a deck to sell your idea, you'd be like, here's the prototype.
Yeah, here's a fully working, amazingly, functional prototype
And
that I built myself with the help of an AI.
How long would that have taken, 10 years ago?
Oh, months and months and months.
Right. And you never would have gotten the approval probably to go.
I mean, I may have gotten the approval for it to actually get built, but I would have had to find like head count, which is expensive. I would have had to you'd have to sell the idea to get the engineers assigned to you to then build the concept.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Just the concept. So now you can just build the concept yourself very quickly.
So you were an early AI adopter.
I mean, in my mind, I was not early. I was early for my team. For my little area, my little backwater of Google, I was early. But for people in tech, I was not. I was just like riding the wave.
I would think that Google would be sort of like on the front of that wave.
So Google's not a monolith. So you have to look at these companies.
Okay, go on.
And they're basically, so these massive companies there's like legacy businesses, right? Google's a 25-year-old company. There's legacy businesses that make money, and they have 15-year-old software, which is very old in like tech terms. And those are not that bleeding edge or innovative. Like Gmail is not, it's not innovative anymore, really, right? It's old software. It works. We rely on it. But that's not like the bleeding edge of the company.
It's not constantly getting upgraded?
It does. But the tip of the spear of the company, all the true like R&D and all of the like the most experimental, exciting, innovation is happening at the tip of the spear. There's like this small portion of the company that is like really doing science fiction type stuff, but the majority is just working on legacy software.
And what kind of science fiction stuff?
Oh, I mean, the things you hear about in popular culture about the coming wave of AI,
Such as?
Gemini, Claude, OpenAI, large language models,
right.
Agents.
But those are the AI things, the providers. What kinds of things are they doing that's like the leading edge?
Oh my God. There's so many things.
While you're thinking that, do you think that AI has been good for Google?
Well, everything is to be determined.
I mean,
right?
they just laid off like 11,000 employees or something, didn't they? Or 12 or 100.
I don't know. That might be a little outdated. I mean, they are laying people off probably on a rolling basis, but that's not a measure of how well the company's doing. And it depends. What is your measure of how well a company's doing? Is it the stock price, or is it how many people it's laying off?
For me,
yeah.
How many people's lives can they make better, including their employees?
Right. Okay.
Which means don't lay off all these people,
right?
So you can substitute AI for their jobs. I mean, that's my measure.
Yeah. So I don't think that people are getting laid off because their AI is directly being substituted for their jobs. I think that there's like reallocations happening. Like if your job is being made obsolete, and you're like a talented person, you will evolve and like adjust your job and find something else to do. You don't just like get laid off necessarily. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Now there might be layoffs happening, but it's not that sinister. It's an evolutionary thing where like the needs of the teams are constantly evolving and changing, and some people aren't needed anymore. And if people aren't needed anymore, I guess they could keep them. But they might not know what to do with them. And one could argue that they should be socially obligated to keep people. I mean, I think that's maybe what you're suggesting. And
easy for me to suggest.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's a valid perspective, but it doesn't work like that.
No. sadly.
Yeah.
And they're having record profits.
And you shouldn't feel too sorry for people who get laid off from Google. I'm sorry.
You were recently.
Yeah, I was.
You parted
and,
ways.
I mean, that's a long, complicated story, but I'm very.
We still have 2 3/4 hours left. Yeah.
I'm okay with the outcome. I'm kind of quite happy with the way things landed. But it's a long story about like being a remote worker and, 2 to 3 years ago, after I moved up here, everyone was encouraged to go back to the office. I never went back. I felt pretty detached from my team, and, I was one of the few people who remained remote. And it didn't quite work. I'm 2.5 hours away from the office because it's like I live 30 minutes out, and then it's another 2 hours into the city to the offices. So I wasn't willing to commute because it just didn't make sense, especially with my kids. Like I'm doing, drop-offs. I'm packing a lunch in the morning. I'm picking up after school. Like just doesn't work for me. And then it became, well, I felt, and maybe it became policy, I don't remember, but I couldn't transfer it to a different team because I was remote. At some point, being remote became like a liability for me.
Oh.
And I couldn't pursue other opportunities. And so it's okay. So eventually we parted ways.
And they must still have some remote workers.
They do, but it's greatly diminished. I don't know the numbers,
Right.
but people have been encouraged to go back and work in person, and it makes sense. You have a better relationship with your colleagues when you're working in person.
Yeah.
And I did feel, it was, let's see, I worked through 2025, 5 years. I was 5 years remote, and I went into the office like once a year. So I felt pretty detached, and I think my team felt pretty detached from me.
Right.
And
you go in and people are like, who's that dude?
Yeah. I mean, some of them didn't recognize me, and others I didn't feel connected to them, and they didn't feel connected to me. And by not going back to the office, it felt like, probably to them, it felt like I was like making a statement of some kind.
Oh, jeez.
And I mean, not in a negative way, but it's like, I know a lot of people that were like, when we were encouraged to go back to the office, they were willing to commute for 2 hours a day, both ways.
Yeah.
And that just didn't work for me. So ultimately, I think that led to me leaving.
Right. So is there any scenario you can imagine where you'd go back to Google? I mean,
no, I don't think so, because I'm not looking for corporate tech anymore. I think I'm done.
Are there any sort of like startup tech companies you see that you think?
I don't even know if I want to do startup tech. I don't even know if I want to do tech.
Yeah.
I may be completely done with tech. I don't know. I'm in a sort of transitional period where I'm trying to figure out what to do.
And since you left Google in November, is that what you said? October, November?
Yeah.
You've been packing school lunches and taking your kids, which is the best job ever.
Yes. I'm a schlepper.
You're a schlepper. Have you filled the time with other pursuits, other creative pursuits?
Yes, but I have to say I have too much time on my hands right now, and it's like at first I was ecstatic. Like the first 2 months, the first 3 months after leaving, I was just ecstatic. I was just overjoyed with all this free time, and I was reading and just doing projects on my own and going to the gym and meeting people for coffee. And then I'm like, I think this would be true for most people. I was like, shit, I need something to do. And now I'll have like long stretches, like 2 to 3 hour stretches in the middle of the day when my kids are at school, where I'm like, what should I do with myself?
And reading's not doing it for you anymore? And
I realized what the problem is that the only way to truly enjoy free time is to have some degree of scarcity applied to it. If your free time is completely open-ended and cheap, it doesn't have a lot of value. You have to find a balance between like being busy and having free time.
Yeah.
And that free time is enhanced by being busy.
Yeah. I mean, I know lots of artists who, fill their days. I mean, they have, whatever, they have the means to just do whatever they want.
Yeah.
And they're nonstop loving their life of just creating.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're pretty well established, intrinsically motivated
Right.
artists. And they're not people who all of a sudden unpredictably left their job.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I think that they have kind of probably developed a practice over time and have a routine and have like a structure for their life.
And so are there art projects you're considering?
Yeah, I mean, I am doing stuff. I'm doing a lot of projects. I'm doing a lot of things. But I have no constraints on me at the moment. And I need some. I'm looking for them. I'm like, I have a meeting after this at 7:30. I actually have a meeting.
Oh, nice.
Not about a potential project. It's actually, I'm meeting with a family. I'm doing more work with College Connect than I was before.
And explain for people what College Connect is.
So I volunteer for an organization here in Rhinebeck, and it operates in Red Hook as well, that helps first generation students from first generation immigrant families go to college. So they're the first generation of kids to go to college in their families, and we help them navigate that process. And I actually have a meeting after this at 7:30 with a family where we're looking at a spreadsheet, and the student has been accepted to these 2 colleges that they're considering.
Nice.
And we're working through the costs and the finances to help them decide.
And you're helping them do all of that.
Yeah, we help put the spreadsheet together. I mean, there's different things you do at different steps along the way.
Yeah.
But I'm also working with a mentor, Rachel Coates, who's very expert in this. She's a local college counselor who's
and
really
she sort of
great.
oversees the College Connect program for it's Culture Connect, right?
I don't know if she oversees it, but she is now the board liaison to Culture Connect for College Connect.
Right.
And she has expertise in this area. I'm just like a volunteer guy. I don't have any particular expertise in college counseling. But I've been learning over the past couple of years. And in the last 5 months since I left my job, I have become more involved. So, but even that's not enough. I need like 4 of those. So I'm like, I'm poking around. I'm like looking for projects.
Yeah. And are there old art ideas of yours that you eager to get to? Do you still make much art?
No, I don't make art per se. The most I do is like I write some short stories every once in a while. And I wrote one recently that I'm pretty happy with, but no one's read. I think the beginning needs to be restructured.
Yeah.
But yeah, I write short stories on occasion, but I don't really do art projects anymore.
Right. I want to bring up some of your old art projects because one of them, which I put in sort of the promo, is the graffiti for butterflies.
Yeah. So
which is such a great title. I'm ready to get great ratings with that.
It's an ancient project. It's so old. It's 20 years old.
Yeah.
I did that project 20 years ago. So I was kind of like, when you highlighted it on the title card, I was like, oh, he's like surfacing all this old shit. Because you researched me, and I'm a former artist. I'm not an artist anymore. Like I went through a period of time where I would have identified as an artist, and that was like 2004 or 2003 to like 2008, maybe 2010. And so that's a good solid 15 years since I've identified as an artist. It like climaxed with a fancy art residency in Chelsea, and then sort of petered out.
I-Beam.
Yeah, this place called I-Beam, which was like
an amazing place.
It was an art and technology center. It was an honor to be an artist in residence there. But what I found, and the reason I went corporate, or I got a job, I mean, I was like a totally broke working artist at the time in like around 2008 when I had this residency. they gave me this residency. I got a $1,500 stipend for like a 9-month residency, which means you have to work.
Right.
Yeah. So, but anyway, I was doing this. I was freelancing to pay my bills, but I was also doing this residency. And what was the question?
Well, I was asking about the graffiti for butterflies.
Oh, graffiti for butterflies. Yeah, I did do it at the time I was at I-Beam. And I was talking about how the fact that I was a former artist. Oh, yeah. What I found was that, like, the kind of work that I did, which were, like, projects. You know, I didn't, like, paint. I didn't create artifacts.
Right.
I created concepts.
Yeah.
And sometimes I need money to, like, execute them. So I found myself in this position where I was, like, writing proposals. I wasn't actually making art. I was just writing proposals to make art all the time. And I was like, this sucks. I don't want to write proposals. That's lame. Like, it's not fun to write a proposal. Then I have to go sell it. It's like, then you're doing marketing. I felt like I was, like, running a small business. It sucked. And I had no money. And then my freelance work was, like, actually, like, my commercial stuff was actually turning into something. I was getting job offers. So I was like, yeah, I think I'm just going to work.
What was the freelance stuff at the time?
Freelance stuff was like early web, it was like web related stuff, like at web agencies. And then I eventually got a job at a company.
Yeah.
I got the offer, and that really turned myself into like
nice
a corporate professional
and
type.
you had a stint at the New York Times
Yes,
too,
I
right?
did 9 years there.
That's more than a stint. That's
Yeah,
pretty
and
good.
I got that job in like 2006. So I was like still like identifying as an artist, but then I had this like day job that like paid the bills, and it was like great job. And then slowly my identity as an artist just like dissipated.
But you did some apps for the Times?
Yeah, I was working on mobile apps, but with groups of people, it was like teams of people.
And did that satisfy some of the same things as being an artist?
No,
not at all.
No, not at all. And it's design. So it's a difference between art and design. Design is a professional endeavor where your constraints are externally imposed on you, right? You're given a set of constraints and you're said, build this. And art is open-ended, and you define your own constraints, and you can do whatever the hell you want.
Right.
And
were you ever doing both of those at the same time?
Yes, I did. There was this like, basically up until I had kids. I had my first kid in 2015. So I was like still flirting with the idea of being an artist while I was working at the New York Times. And I think it undermined my professional work because like I was always just daydreaming and thinking about my personal projects.
Yeah.
Now,
let me ask, I mean, because we had a discussion last time we had lunch about your ASD. Right. And I wonder, as you described, working within a set of given, externally given constraints versus working just doing your own stuff. Is one of those better for you emotionally in that way?
Yeah, that's a great connection. Really interesting. Because I think that's totally what was happening is that I was diagnosed with autism at age 50, 2 years ago.
Yes.
And I had a lot of symptoms and struggles, my whole life.
What were the symptoms?
With certain things, but just to cover that transition period where I had like NYT going and I had my art going.
Yeah.
I think I hid in my art. So in other words, I would never fully commit to my job because I would take cover in my artistic practice, if you want to call it that. That's a fancy word for saying like, I do my own thing. And when I leave here, I do not identify with this place. And even when I am here, you don't have 100% of me. And it was like, I'm not comfortable here. This is a organizational bureaucratic setting where I'm not fully functional and I'm not fully comfortable. And I am going to go hide and take shelter in my independent artwork where I have no social constraints and no one's imposing anything on me.
Sounds pretty good.
Yes, but it's just a dynamic that occurred and I didn't understand it through the lens of neurodiversity at all. I thought I was kind of a failure at work, and I always have felt that way.
So 2 years ago, you got this diagnosis. Did you look back on your life and the diagnosis made a lot of sense about things that were confusing or stuck in your craw or whatever?
Yes. Yeah. It definitely it's definitely explanatory.
Right.
Yeah. In so many ways.
And,
it's almost, I'm getting emotional.
Yeah.
Like,
well, we don't have to talk about any of this.
No. In a good way. Like, it's just, there were things that were just really hard for me for decades, and I didn't understand it.
And so how has your life changed since getting that diagnosis?
I mean, I have support that I've needed. Like, I have a medicine that I take that really helps me. And I've been on it for like just a year, really.
Helps you how?
So it's not an antidepressant. It's not a benzo. It's this other category of medication. It's called guanfacine. And I take a very small amount of it. And it dials down my intensity and some of my compulsions. And so, like, you know how in Spinal Tap, the movie?
Yeah.
There's that scene where he says, the speaker,
Yeah.
oh, this goes to 11.
Yeah.
Right? I feel like I was always running at 11. My internal thought processes were always running at 11. And I'm like dialed down to 8 now.
So in your house, there's your wife who met you when you were at 11.
Yeah.
And your kids who grew up with you at 11. And now you've been on this drug for like a year. Do you talk with them about, what
Yeah.
you're doing? And do they share how they feel your connection is different? I mean, assume your wife probably more than your kids.
I mean, my wife is instrumental in like getting me treatment and getting the diagnosis. So I'm very grateful to her for sort of learning all about this area.
Yeah.
And then encouraging me to get a neuropsych evaluation. So there's that. And then my kids, they're little, but we have a very open conversation about the way my brain works and the way your brain works, and we all have different brains. And your brain's good at this, and my brain's good at that. And we have a very neurodivergence friendly household.
That's great. And you may not want to say, but I want to ask, are any of the kids neurodiverse?
Yeah. So my kids, part of the reason why I ended up going to get an evaluation was because my kids, we were also on this journey, before this, of like figuring out and understanding my kids better. I mean, I don't want to go into too much detail about them because this is like on the internet.
Yeah.
But that was one of the main like instigators in terms of our own awareness, because I had no idea about any of this stuff.
Right. Now, I read somewhere the other day that one of the things that helps make people happy is when they can see their own brain clearly and enjoy what it's doing.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know if I'm quite there yet.
The follow-up question was, you're there. Are you happier now?
Yes. Yes, definitely.
So maybe that is happening. That effect is there.
I mean, I definitely think that self-awareness is important, and I'm sure it's helpful. I also think the medicine's helping. How much is it chemical versus, cognitive? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's probably a combination.
Sure. You'd think. Huh. Wow. Well, guess what? We're out of time.
How long was that? 2 hours?
Well, it's an hour.
Oh, it's just an hour?
Yeah, I guess it seemed like 2 hours to you.
Yeah, that was a lot of material.
But anyway, thank you so much for being here. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. Have a great Friday night and a fabulous weekend. My wonderful guest today has been Elliott Malkin, engineer, as always, the extraordinary Jen Hammoud. a producer extraordinaire, and broadcasting from the Nook at the Epicurean Corner Store here in fabulous Rhinecliff, New York. Have a good weekend. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.
Thank you.